Good afternoon, everyone. State Representative Emanuel, Chris Welch, coming to you live here today on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I am coming to you from my office in Westchester. As many of you may know, and for those of you who don't know, we are in the midst of a COVID-19 surge. We have been hearing from the experts for several weeks and months now that a second surge was expected. And folks, the surge is here. Just a couple of hours ago, Governor Pritzker posted a comment on his social media pages. And I want to read that comment to you before we get to our guests. I want to also ask you to share this video with your Facebook friends so that they can listen to the information that we're about to share here today, because I believe it's very useful and needed information as we are headed into this second wave of the coronavirus surge. Just a couple of hours ago, Governor Pritzker posted this to his social media pages. We are seeing a national surge of coronavirus, and Illinois is not immune. Indeed, our neighboring states of Missouri, Iowa, and Wisconsin all have positivity rates and hospitalizations that are soaring. So it's perhaps not surprising that over the weekend, 2 more regions triggered our metrics for additional mitigations. That means reduced sizes of public gatherings to 25 people and temporary closure of indoor dining and indoor bar service. No matter where in Illinois you call home, as you go about your daily life, remember that this is not over. There seems to be a COVID storm coming, and we have to be prepared. It's time to go all in, Illinois. Those are the words from Governor J.B. Pritzker just a few hours ago. And just about 30 minutes ago, Governor has added a third region where he has added mitigation measures. And that third region is Region 11, which is the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago now joins Region 10, which was suburban Cook County, which he announced yesterday, in Region 4, which is the Metro East, which is near St. Louis in Illinois, which are all going to additional mitigation measures starting tomorrow and or Friday, which means no indoor dining for bars and restaurants because of where we are with the coronavirus surge. Ladies and gentlemen, the governor of the state of Illinois says a COVID storm is coming. Some pretty strong words from our governor. To help us understand the surge better, and joining me here today is a resident of my district, a friend of mine, a constituent who has helped keep me informed every step of the way. We have had several conversations and text exchanges over the months. He has been tracking this very closely, is my friend, Lee Neubecker. Lee is a cybersecurity professional and computer forensics expert who has been tracking the coronavirus since March when this all began. And he has appeared on CNN and other outlets to explain the numbers over the last few months. And on my website at www.emanuelchriswelch.com, on the home page at the very top in a yellow tab are real-time COVID-19 numbers. Those have been provided to me by Lee, and they are free of charge. And you can go to my webpage any day and track what's going on right here in the 7th District. And so now I want to welcome to my show, as Senator Durbin calls it, my friend and resident of the 7th District, Lee Neubecker. Lee, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, Chris.
Thanks for coming on such short notice. You know, the governor said a COVID storm is coming. Those are some pretty strong words, Lee. How bad is it right now based on the numbers that you've been tracking?
Yeah, well, things are definitely going the wrong way right now. We've got acceleration, which is a real concern. And I'd be happy to show you some of the numbers. Today we just had the announcement by the governor that Illinois, and specifically within Chicago, we're going into a lockdown on more restrictions, which is concerns. Any restaurateur that's operating, they're going to be under new restrictions that prevents them from having people dining or drinking inside.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to say lockdown or shut down. We're not under a stay-at-home order or anything, but I do want folks to realize the serious nature of where we are and the additional mitigation measures that are put in place. The governor is requiring no indoor dining at restaurants and bars in Region 4 and 10. 10 is suburban Cook County, starting tomorrow, and now in the city of Chicago, starting Friday. We're not under a stay-at-home order, but these numbers are out of control. They are surging in the wrong direction. And as the governor says, a COVID storm is coming. Let me ask you this, Lee, before we get to the numbers. Mm-hmm. How do the numbers that are coming out today compare to where we were in April and May when you first started tracking this?
Yeah, well, if I can show you my website, Chris, I've got the numbers pulled up. I'd like to be able to share that with you.
Show me what you got.
Okay, so we've got, let's see, here we go. We've got on a national basis, you can see the numbers going back. There we go. My first time using StreamYard. Here we go.
Welcome to StreamYard.
So we've got, when I started tracking the data at the time, they were only reporting the total cases. And a lot of people wanted to be able to see not the cumulative number, but how many do we have reported each day? And so what this shows, the blue represents the daily number of cases. And this is going back all the way back to April 6th. But what I added that I think is helpful to look at is there's a red line here, which is the 7-day trailing average. And then the orange line is a 14-day trailing average. And so this is for the whole US. So you can see we had this initial wave, and then, well, we actually had a small wave earlier on. It went down, and then it went up again in July after 4th of July. And then we had some abatement, and now we're headed to a new third national wave. And part of this is because every state has different policies. If had we acted as a country, we could have controlled this much quicker and hopefully have not been dealing with the number of cases we have today.
Yeah. Now, looking at your charts, you're tracking the positivity rates.
Well,
why is that?
This is actually confirmed cases. The positivity rate, you have to calculate. These graphs don't depict positivity rates, but the positivity rate refers specifically to if you were to test 100 people, how many of the people would be positive? So if you have 8 out of 100 in Illinois, that triggers a metric on further restrictions, which is what we see happening now in Chicago.
So confirmed cases. So when we hear that there's been so many number of people that have tested positive as reported by IDPH each day, mm-hmm. That is the number that you're showing us here in this graphic, correct?
This isn't positivity here. This particular page is showing the number of people infected per 100,000 using the 7-day trailing average. So, for instance, this is ranked the counties that are most infectious, and some of those are smaller counties because they didn't take their risk mitigation measures seriously, or they thought because they were out away from a big city that they didn't have the risk. But this virus spreads from person to person within family households through work and other measures. So the places we see that are the most infectious right now are places like South Dakota, Kansas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Montana. Much of the route that the Sturgis bikers went through, where lots of social distancing practices and mask wearing were ignored, those places now have lots of cases.
Lee, is there a place in the country that's not seeing a surge?
Well, if we look at the places that are that are best managing this, I would say, here we go. Hold on a second. Okay, these are the states that are shrinking, have the best shrinking growth rates. You can see places like West Virginia. The best place right now, week over week comparison, the state of Washington is down 13%. But usually, because we're entering the fall and people are going indoors, this list is much shorter. I don't even have 10 that have shrinking numbers. So nationally, that's a real concern.
Yeah.
I want to take you to Illinois, though, because many of your questions about positivity and whatnot, you can see there. So off our website, enigmaforensics.com, you can click the link for COVID statistics. Then when you go into Illinois, there's some unique data that we have there. First of all, here's the confirmed cases. I'm pulling up a easier to see view. What you see happen is when this thing first started, around March 15th, Governor Pritzker issued the mask order. And it took, if you see where the red line starts to go below the 14-day average, that's when we're turning the curve, when the red line is below the orange. And it took about 2 months from the time that policy happened until the numbers trended downward. And we were in an advantage then because people were going outside. So by about 3 months after the mask order, we were back in a good place. So I'm expecting that we're going to see this, the shutdown in Chicago to probably take at least 3 months before things start to open back up again. And it could be longer because we're going into a cold season. We don't have the benefit of people being able to dine outdoors in the winter.
Well, let me ask you a question about where we are right now. President Trump has been hosting rallies almost daily. And he says, we are rounding the turn. And he's saying we're rounding the turn for the better. I mean, you're tracking this on a daily basis. I'm looking at your chart. Is that an accurate statement that the president of the United States is making?
Well, it all depends on, this red line, you could probably argue that it looks a little bit rounded, but it's not rounding in the right direction. It's rounding upward.
It's rounding upward.
Which is this, but these are numbers. These aren't political spin. This is what it is. And some people don't believe in the numbers and the science. I think we have a heckler posting on here, some comments to that effect, but this is real stuff. And at one point in time, 1 out of 20 people who were confirmed positive would die. Fortunately, we're in a much better situation. We know more about the virus. There's treatments. There's more mask wearing going on than initially there was, but there still isn't enough. If everyone would take mask wearing seriously and social distancing, it would help slow the spread and would help us get out of this upward trajectory.
Here's what has me concerned right here today, October 27th, is that the governor says a COVID storm is coming. So is he saying that it's going to get worse before it gets better?
Yeah, but what happens, the reason why some people are questioning, well, what's the big deal about the positivity rate going past 8%? But the growth of this is more geometric. So you got, if for every 8 people, if each of those people give it to another 8 people, you're at 64, and then it grows exponentially. It doesn't grow linearly. So that's why right now we're on this upward trajectory. And if we don't do something about it, it's going to get worse. The deaths are something important to look at too, though, because we're managing the treatment much better. But you can see here the deaths, again, we're outpacing, the 7-day average is outpacing the 14-day average. I like looking at the 7 and 14 trailing averages because it gets rid of the weekend functionality. You can tell, reporting legs Saturday, Sunday, then it pops up, and sometimes they don't report for a few days and the cases get lumped in on one day and it spikes. But when you're looking at the red and the orange, you can tell we're rounding the corner downward when the red is below the orange. when the red is above the orange, we're rounding upward. So if he wants to use round, that could be accurate, but we're not getting better in our death rate. You can see here, we're steadily increasing. And the more you get more cases where more of the population has it, the more the potential that the numbers radically jump up, which is,
yeah. So we're rounding the term, but we're rounding in the wrong direction. We're going upward, folks. And the country has seen over 225,000 deaths from this already. Illinois is approaching 10,000 deaths. I think we're just a little over 9,500. And these are real people. These are people that won't be at the Thanksgiving dinner table this year that were here last year.
Eventually all of us are going to have someone we know that we love and care about that passed from this. So it's as much as it might be true that many people could get it and pass it and be okay, there's other people that can't. And, wearing a mask, not standing on top of someone when you're in a line, those are things that you do because you respect your fellow human. And it shouldn't be something that is a party platform driven event. Masks shouldn't be political, nor should practicing social distance. And most importantly, people right now, everyone needs to limit their bubble and not get into situations where you're having lots of interactions with different people. So that's not what we want to be doing right now. And as much as many people might want their kids to go trick-or-treating is exactly the type of event that could lead to mass spread.
So we have Halloween coming up. We also have Thanksgiving coming up, Lee. And so when you look at the numbers headed the way they're headed, what advice would you give folks around Halloween and Thanksgiving specifically?
Yeah. But I think if there will be some people that will still participate in trick-or-treating because they believe strongly in that and they don't feel that their family's at risk. If you are going to pass out Halloween candy, one of the things you can do is you can put a table near the sidewalk and you could have a PVC tube so that you could drop the candy into the tube and have 10 feet between you and the table. Some people are concerned if they just put the candy on the table, someone's going to come through and wipe them all out at once. So if you want to distribute candy, there are creative ways you can do it where you keep the social distance. My concern, though, are the kids that run around, some of them unattended, that's going to just lead to a lot more mixing as people go up to doors and wait in line to get candy.
Kids are amazing. They actually understand what's going on more than what people want to give them credit. You could also just not trick or treat in the midst of a pandemic right now. Let me also ask this, because one of the things the president is out there saying, Lee, is that, this virus is not any worse than the flu. Again, you've been tracking this every day. I don't know if you're keeping track of the flu, but do you have any comments on that?
Well, I think that, it was said recently that we're now losing more people on a daily basis to COVID deaths than we did at 9/11. And it's a daily event. So this is a major loss of life. But there's another side of this that people are talking about, how our kids feel the isolation. I had a loved one that was depressed and passed away during the beginning of the epidemic. There are people who work their lives to set up their businesses that now are facing gut-wrenching decisions to lay off. The dishwasher has to go, the wait staff have to go, and it's likely that many of these restaurants that are being shut down from having dine-in service, that they'll never reopen. And I really hope that I would like to see us look at ways to use technology to allow the businesses to operate safely. And things like installing UVC lighting, air filtration systems, and having the returns be on the floor with the intake up top. Those things would help to clear the air in the room of any droplets if someone sneezed. And that might be a way that we could allow some restaurants to operate. But right now, it's kind of in my opinion, it's kind of like, we know we got to do something and we don't have time to put that in place, but having real leadership across the country and how we can support businesses from collapsing. How, there's been no package passed by Congress to help the staff or the business operators with more relief. And this is going to devastate people financially, emotionally, and the impacts impact everyone in the household. I know kids are struggling with this, and I don't think that the flu ever caused mass loss of business or depression or suicides the way that this epidemic is.
And we have a vaccine for the flu. I mean, all of us get a flu shot every year. I mean, I know I do. We still
I got mine already.
And we still don't have an actual vaccine for COVID-19 yet.
Yeah.
And most of the scientists, experts say we won't have one until early next year. Lee, have you tracked the data in cities or states where the president has held his rallies? And if so, have you been able to see a correlation in COVID-19?
Yeah, I looked at some of the places where the rallies were held where there weren't social distancing measures. And what I would see is, roughly 3 weeks after, I'd start to see an uptick. I think that the impact might be much greater than the rally, though. The people that see the president and look to the president as a leader, when he says he doesn't need to wear a mask and he's fine, and he's not following CDC guidelines to stay, to wait 2 weeks before he gets past us. And it just tells a good portion of the population that we don't need to follow what the advice is. So that creates, that makes us think.
The vice president just had several people in his inner circle, including his body man, the person that's next to him every day, everywhere he goes, test positive. And the vice president is still traveling to rallies, not wearing masks. Last night they had another event in the Rose Garden. They're continuing to hold these massive events. And it's the second time now that we've seen, in connection with the White House, several people coming down with COVID-19. I don't know, what more do we need to show?
But one thing I want to point out about that, Chris, is the White House staff, they have access to stuff that the rest of us don't. They have rapid tests. They have the ability to do daily tests, but they're also mixing with an incredible large number of people. If all of our schools had access to rapid 1 hour tests, you could test everyone, let the kids go back to school, let the kids that have vulnerable families still participate via, teleconference, but we could get our kids back in school if we could test everyone every Monday.
Hey, Lee, but even with access to all of those tests and the fact that they have access to anything they need in the world, they still have had spreads at the White House.
Yeah, well, the single most effective thing that can stop this is wearing a mask. That's what they said, even more so than a vaccine. The vaccine's not going to be 100% effective.
One of the things I want to underscore to people and why I want them to take it seriously and why we're having this conversation today is the President of the United States also has access to the greatest healthcare in the world, free, courtesy of our government. And that's why he was able to bounce back so fast. We all don't have the same type of access to healthcare that the president has. So I think
exactly. Even the testing, some people have to wait 3 days to get the results. So in the meantime, they might not have the luxury of just staying at home because they've got to work, they've got to put food on the table. Whereas if they knew they had COVID, they might make that sacrifice and not go into work. So, that is being able to immediately capture positive cases and not have people waiting for days could make a huge difference in helping to mitigate the growth of this virus. But masks are number one, Chris. You're absolutely right. Wearing a mask when you can't social distance is the number one thing. When this thing first started happening, I analyzed the numbers from different countries, and I saw South Korea, they were able to nip this in the bud. And one of the things the federal government did is they made sure that they got masks out into all the drugstores so there was supply available, and so that everyone could get a mask and there wasn't hysteria about a shortage of supplies. And people wore the mask. It didn't matter. It wasn't a party situation, but masks in our culture became kind of a macho thing. And, you know, I still hear people that complain about having to wear a mask. It's like, I don't like having to wear a mask, but I do it because I protect people around me that I don't know. And I don't want to get someone else or pass it.
So if you were giving advice, the single biggest piece of advice it sounds like you would say to folks is wear the damn mask.
If you got to be around other people, wear a mask.
Wear a mask. If you're in your office and you walk into the bathroom, you know you might pass someone in the hall, wear a mask. If you're in the grocery store where other folks are, wear a mask. You know, we're not saying wear it 24/7, but when you're around other people, the single best thing you could possibly do is to wear a mask. And if you don't have one, give me a call. I'll get you one. 708-450-1000. 708-450-1000 is my office number. I'll get you a mask. You know,
that's a great number too, Chris, by the way. How'd you snag a 1000 number?
I begged the folks at the phone company. I said, I need an easy number for me to remember.
That's great.
Hey, Lee, let me ask you one last question. I don't know if you got something you can put up on the screen. Where can people go if they're junkies like me and want to track the numbers? You know, I have on the screen my website. They can track the 7th district specifically at www.emanuelchriswelch.com and go to the yellow tab at the top of the homepage. Courtesy of Lee, you can track what's going on in community by community here in the 7th district. But you might want to track the nation and the other states like Lee's doing. Where can they go?
Well, if you go to my website, enigmaforensics.com, and you click, let's see, is a screen sharing there? There we go. Yeah. If you click Corona virus COVID-19 data tracking, there's a link there. It takes you to this tab, and you can see the metrics on where it's growing the fastest, where it's shrinking. And if you live in Illinois, you can actually, it's also got the county rates of infection. So you can see all counties in the US ranked. And this is based on the trailing 7-day number of cases per people. So if you want to find out a good place to shelter in place where there's not much virus, here's the places that have reported 0 cases. So, you know, there are some places that don't have reported cases. Even in Illinois, there's a few counties that are mostly downstate. The other thing too is, in addition, when you click over here to the right of Illinois, you can see the Illinois data where it ranks the data. You can look up a zip code. So if you want to know what's going on in your zip code, what's one of your zip codes, Chris?
Go to 60153. That's Maywood.
Okay, so I'm going down to 60153. And I can see the tests. Let's see. Oh. 60153. You can see here's the cases. And you can see here that you're trending up a little bit. The test, if you want to compute positivity, see this red line here? This is a 7-day average. There were 5 cases reported on average every day for the last week. Now the number of tests reported were 82. So if I want to compute your positivity rate, just pull up my calculator. 5 divided by 82. You're running a 6% positivity rate. So you're doing much better than Cook County as a whole or Chicago, where you're at.
There you have it, right there from Lee Neubecker. You can check out my website and get the information real time, or go directly to his website. Lee, I want to thank you for joining me on such last minute notice. And I want to give folks some final advice. Wear a mask, wash your hands, watch your distance. And while you're distancing socially, please continue to eat locally. Let's support our local businesses. Let's, dine outside at these areas that they've set up, taken the time to set up. Let's order takeout. Let's do curbside pickup. Let's continue to support our local businesses. And let's get through this together. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you joining us for this important discussion on COVID-19.
Thanks, Chris, for having me on the show.
Thanks, Lee.